Yeah, this is Rick Ness. Yeah, I think you got something of mine. Listen, I know that you took my 10-inch suction line, all right? No, I know. No, hey, listen, no, you listen.
A neighboring miner stole his only suction line.
From neighbors who you cannot trust to leave your expensive equipment alone to the same neighbors who would steal such items only to return it in a state that would infuriate the owners. This is how Rick Ness got enraged because someone stole his equipment on Gold Rush. As ever, the search for gold continues for those whom the fans watch on the Gold Rush TV show. If it isn't Parker Schnabel as he strives to continue onto his path as one of the most successful gold miners in the gold mining industry today, it is Tony Beets, the gold mining veteran who is trying to expand his gold mining empire. Today, though, we will be following Rick Ness as he continues to do all that he can to find his feet as a gold mining boss in his own right, after spending several years under the wings of Parker Schnabel. As ambitious as he may be, though, he would find that it is not that easy to make it in the gold mining industry. While there are elements of nature that may prove to be roadblocks to their plans in the mines, such as the winter and its freezing conditions, for example, Rick would find that even some of his counterparts may stick a spanner in the works from time to time. On what seemed to be a typical day in the mines, the viewers must have been concerned when they noticed that Rick had driven into the mines with some sort of tension that seemed to tell them that he was in a bit of a mood. What could be on his mind?
They saw him. They saw him on site.
He just took it?
Yeah, he just took it. I tell you what, dude, I not a whole lot gets me going with a thief, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go get it.
Well, the tense phone call he would have once he stepped out of his truck would reveal why he seemed to be so upset. Apparently, the person on the other line had taken something of his, and he was definitely not happy about that. What could this thing be? Moments later, it is revealed that this person took his 10-inch suction line. While some may be wondering why Rick got so rattled up about this item, maybe they would see why when they found out that this was the only 10-inch suction line that he had left. To make matters worse, it looked like this person, this neighboring miner by the way, had gone out of their way to steal this item from Rick's mine. Truly diabolical. What do you do when you cannot feel safe on your own property because even your own neighbors are stealing from you? As if that isn't bad enough, Rick also has a legitimate complaint on his hands because this 10-inch suction line is used to feed vital water to his wash plant. As we all know, these wash plants are very important when it comes to sluicing for gold in these harsh gold mines. As such, the theft of something so important must have been a huge act of disrespect to Rick and the rest of the miners in his growing gold mining company. In short, without this item, Rick and his men may as well just pack up and go home because they would not be able to get the gold that they were all looking for without it.
After asking around, Rick Ness has discovered a neighboring miner stole his only suction line that feeds vital water to his wash plant. Without it, Rick has no hope of getting on the gold.
With this in mind, it is understandable that Rick was not in the mood to be nice or polite to this person. No doubt, with this act of theft, diplomacy had gone right out the door. There is only one thing that Rick wanted this thieving neighbor to get into his head, and it was that he wanted his suction line back. Unfortunately, though, it seemed as though this man wasn't getting the message. As a result, Rick called for Z, one of the other miners in his company. Once he had the man's attention, he was quick to tell him that he was able to trace their missing suction line to their thieving neighbor. How did they find out about this anyways? Turns out that Kyle informed Rick that this neighbor had been looking for this 10-inch suction line for some time now. Apparently, Kyle just so happened to see this same man walking around with this item after some time. Turns out that he saw the line on Rick's mining site and decided that he was just going to take it. Can you believe that? I bet the same person complains about missing the days that he didn't need to lock his back door. What a creep. Understandably, this whole affair had gotten Rick all rattled up. Fans of the show know that he isn't quick to lose his temper, so when he tells you that he is mad, boy, he must be mad. With this rage still burning in his heart, it was clear to Rick that there is only one thing to do. He had to get his damn 10-inch suction line back. Looking to waste no more time debating on the matter, Rick immediately got back into his truck. He's going to head over to the other side of the mountain so that he could rip this thieving neighbor a new one. How dare he steal from Rick? After a quick drive, Rick just happened to come across some people sent by the man as he was making his way to the neighboring mine. Looks like he wanted to talk after all. Fortunately for them, Rick still had enough wits around himself to turn around and meet with the man back at his own mine. Maybe they could actually sort this out. The guy is still a punk though. Why didn't he show up? Turns out, Rick knew that the man didn't have the stones to make a personal appearance.
I'll turn around, you can follow me down there. Knew he wouldn't show. Send some idiots to bring it here for him. I knew it.
As enraged as Rick may be, we hope that these guys may be able to give him what he needs so that he could bury the hatchet to get back to work. They had too much gold for them to ignore for too long. After some time, the group continued to make their way to their destination. This time may not be a good thing for the guys, because the longer they drove, it appeared that Rick was getting more and more upset. Turns out that he noticed that they may have the suction line with them. Ordinarily, this may have been good news. Contrary to this though, Rick found that he was getting more and more enraged the longer they drove, because it looked as though they had actually damaged the suction line. How did they manage that in such a short period of time? Well, there was only one way to find out. Meet with those punks. One thing is for sure though, Rick seemed to be so pissed that if the suction line was truly destroyed beyond use, Rick is going to throw some hands. To be honest, we can only hope for the best in this situation. Unfortunately, Rick's worst fears seem to be true. Unbelievable. How did these guys let this happen? Are you actually kidding me here? These guys deserve the worst ass whooping ever. Then there's the guy who had the stones to steal the line. Not only was he slimy enough to ruin the line, he was too cowardly to own up to his mistakes by himself. What a loser. He instead decided to send his 2 underlings to take care of his dirty work. Who said that there are no role models anymore? These losers were even callous enough to return the suction line with dents and duct tape all over it, as if that would make up for anything. It's enough to get the police involved, and that is even before Rick got to lay hands on them. Enraged, Rick ripped the damaged piece of equipment from the thieves' truck.
Tell your boss I'm coming for a visit.
As they scurried away though, Rick made sure he told these losers that their boss should expect a visit from him. There was no way he was going to get away with this without having an exchange of words with Rick. No flipping way. In the wake of their departure, it became more and more clear that things were going to get really volatile soon. These losers actually had the balls to return his perfectly working equipment in such terrible conditions. Can you believe that? Earlier on, the line was just fine. It had no damage at all. Now, Rick looks at his items in despair following this terrible act of mischief that he had just been forced to suffer. Understandably, Rick was shaking with white-hot rage. What a joke. As Rick and the team look at their damaged equipment, they are even forced to wonder why these guys even chose to return it. It was useless now. It would have been better if they had just sent the money to pay for the damage, or even just went out to buy new ones. Well, that seemed to be what was on Z's mind, as he told Rick that they should go to this guy so that they could demand a new one for them. That said, they need to take a moment to think about their next move before they go over there and do something that they would regret. Sure, these guys owed them, but there was no need to go there all hot-headed without actually having a plan to get what they wanted from these guys. With that in mind, Z wanted to know what was the safest and quickest way to get what they were owed without ending up in a prison cell. Rick didn't seem to care. Whatever that measure may be, he was clear about getting what was due to him from his thieving neighbor. Z was happy to listen to his friend and boss. To him, though, he was adamant that they focus on the safest and the quickest way for them to get what they needed from this mischievous character.
Honestly, let's think for a sec. What is the safer, quicker, keep us out of jail option right now?
I'm not letting it go with this guy.
I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying, for now, let's get the safest, quickest option to get us up and running.
As such, he believed that the best thing for them to do for now was to take a moment and focus on something else for the time being. They would just have to deal with this issue later on. Rick tries to get his way by insisting that he should go there by himself, while Z handles the affairs at the mines, since he was very familiar with what was going on there. Not one to be fooled, Z insisted that they should work together. In fact, he was hopeful that they could find someone nearby who may have something that they could borrow for the time being, so that they can continue with their work at that point in time. Rick is lucky that he has someone like Z. Time and time again, He has proven to be the voice of reason. Who knows what Rick would have done if he wasn't there? What a scary thought, to be honest. With the calm words that came from Z, Rick eventually began to calm down. After some moments, he was his jovial self once more. It looked like he was going to chill out so that he could try and find a way to continue the work on the mines with his buddy. As they carried on, Rick once again recognized that he needed to cool down. They had too much work to do, and he couldn't be distracted by some idiots who thought they could do what they wanted with other people's stuff. No, he was not going to be like them. He was going to focus on the work that he had at hand. He would just have to deal with those losers later. Fortunately, Rick's mining company was able to get back to work, digging for that gold that they all came out there for. Sure, it was just Rick and Z working on the mines at that point in time, but it was better than the alternative, which involved Rick marching over to his neighbor's mine so that he could knock his head in. I mean, who goes around to their neighbor's property just so that they could steal stuff? Then why would that idiot damage the thing that he stole beyond repair before returning it back to the destroyed owner? What a buffoon!
Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. It's destroyed. It's up. Basket smashed. The hose is crushed flat and they got duct tape over it.
To think this happened after just a week of Rick and his men getting back to work in the mines. For some, this may make them lament about the fact that it looked like they may have a long season in front of them. Nonetheless, Rick and Z got on with their work stockpiling pay dirt from the gold-rich soil found in the mines of the Yukon. Working hard at the valley cut, the team got on well with their work, especially as they felt that there was no pressure on them. Sure, it was just the two of them, and sure, they had a lot of work to do that day, but it was no worries. They had the stuff to get the job done. So far, they have been getting through the work quickly, and with any luck, they would be more than enough to get the job done by the end of the season. In fact, Rick himself confessed that the work is going better than they expected it to go, barring the affair with their thieving neighbors. After a while, Rick and Z acknowledged that it has been a long day and it may be time for them to wrap things up. Fair enough. It had truly been a long day. Although they agreed on this, especially as they were fast running out of daylight, they figured that there may be enough time to carry out one more dig. Awesome. They may even be able to see some of the gold that they had managed to dig up from the pay dirt. Rick especially wanted to see it. It may make his day a lot better than it had been going already. Over the next few hours or so, Rick finally shut his wash plant down, hoping to see if it had made a significant collection of gold. That said, this was an understandably difficult process, so it was a speculative effort at best to try and see how much gold they had collected through the water in the box. That said, the team was soon excited when Z suddenly spotted some good signs in a part of the box.
Hey, there's some here.
Is there?
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
On the left.
Look at that. It ain't that big, but it's definitely a picker. Look at that.
Nice.
They may have actually done something good that day. Look at all that gold. Look at how big it is. It was huge enough for the boys to be proud of themselves and their work. Just a few hours ago, some punks who didn't know their place tried to ruin their efforts that day by stealing from them, then going ahead to destroy their stuff. Luckily, these two guys were guys who knew that hard work could fix a lot of things, and thankfully, it seemed to fix their day for them. This was a big deal for Rick especially, as he needed a sign that they had come out there for something. It took a lot of effort to come out there, and as it was also a long way back, they had to make sure that they didn't leave the Yukon empty-handed that season. This current gold haul told them that it looked like they would be able to achieve some of their goals that season, and that was great for Rick and Z. Just look at that speck of gold in Rick's hand. Furthermore, Rick had told Z that he was proud of him. There was no way that he would have been able to make it out there without Z. He definitely would have gotten involved in a fight if it hadn't been for his close friend. He'd probably be in some prison call or something if Z let him get his hand on that neighbor that stole and destroyed his equipment. He was definitely glad that Z came out there with him, and as such, he felt he owed a lot of loyalty to his friend and colleague. He was ready to do anything for him. To be honest, what could one ask for more than that? To his credit, Z was pleased to hear this. In turn, he told Rick that he would have it no other way. He would always be there for his friend, and he would always be there to help him find the success that they both crave. That is the only way to make it out there in the harsh gold mining fields found in the Yukon. He would always be ready for one more dig out in these mines, especially if it was with Rick.
All right, thanks, pal. This is good stuff. You know what? This first one, you know, when you take that home, that's yours.
Oh.
It ain't much, but you deserve it.
No.
This is almost better than Romeo and Juliet. Well, the time for all the lovey-dovey stuff seemed to be over as the pair decided that it was time for them to take their leave. After a man hug, Rick gifts Z that speck of gold that meant so much to them. With any luck, this would be the first of many for the boys that season. For now, it may not be much, but Z deserved it. At least for now. If they failed to get any more gold, then that was all he was going to get that season. Z was quick to say that this gift meant a lot to him. Sure, he could fleece it for some money, but this was a representation of friendship and partnership in the face of jobs that one may want to complete, as well as the beauty of brotherhood in the face of adversity. Well, as Rick stated once more, Z deserves such a gift. He's been the best partner in recent times, and with any luck, this partnership would continue for many years to come.
You know, I couldn't have done this without Z, and, you know, it's emotional for me at the moment, just from, you know, what I had to do to get back here.
It has not been easy, but then again, you'd find that the route to anything good never is. Fortunately for the pair, Rick considers this to be just the start of an extended period of success. Such is the life of those who risk it all just to find said success in the gold mines found all over the world. Just ask the likes of Parker Schnabel and Tony Beets. As we all know, Parker has been on this road to success ever since he was a kid. Some say that he was in these mines even before he was a teenager, thanks to his proximity to the industry, as both his father and his grandfather had commendable careers as gold miners back in their heyday. Thanks to this background, those who tune into the events taking place during the gold rush have been able to watch as Parker set out to conquer the world of gold mining.
Our record is 7,400, and for the season, we have 7,504.9 ounces. Cheers, guys.
With about $10 to $15 million in the bank these days, it looks like he has been able to give a good go at it so far. Then there is Tony Beets, who had to get a feel of other industries before he found success in the gold mines in North America. This is truly remarkable of this old man who started his work life as a farmhand. Now he is the so-called king of the Klondike. With such role models in front of him, it may be easy for Rick to find several models of success. As such, with any luck, and with some time on his hands, he too may be one of the leading figures in the world of gold mining. Hopefully, these pesky neighbors would let him use his stuff so that he can have all the success he can get.
We've got one very good thing going for us right now, and that's the plants running. Everything around that is very scary.
I've been working on stuff since I was, I'd say at least like 12 or 13 years old. Just working on stuff at home like snowmobiles and dirt bikes and stuff. I've officially gotten into the trade about 3 years ago, so I've got all my schooling done. I just need to get my hours now.
From losing their chief mechanic who could help them solve the crew's problems with their machines, to having to make all the gold discoveries that they can before the weather hinders their efforts, here's how Rick Ness just lost $1 million because of a broken gold digging machine. Whoa, what's going on? Even Rick Ness, one of the most promising new mine bosses of the Gold Rush TV show, is surprised at what he thinks he just witnessed. Did this kid just fix his $1 million excavator? Like any other gold miner looking to find his fortune in the mines in Alaska and Canada, Rick Ness is familiar with the many ups and downs of the mining industry, especially when it comes to the unpredictable nature of the business. As a result, Rick will have to consider several important factors, such as how the weather had developed during the course of the season and how technology may fail them as the crew continues their determined search for gold in the Klondike or in Alaska.
But the biggest problem that we've got right now is my 750 excavator needs to be put together fast. I mean, really fast.
As the crew continues in their bid to search for this precious gold, Rick makes the decision to enter unfamiliar territory so that he can see what different sites had to offer. This may be a difficult move because he's had to endure the disappointment of broken down machines and the loss of several crewmen who couldn't handle the heat of mining for gold. Before long, Rick knew that he had to make a decision if he was going to make the most of their time searching for gold in these mines. As a result, he felt there was nothing else to do but to recruit a trained mechanic to help them with their machines. At least that way, maybe they could make up for the loss of men that the crew had experienced recently. However, imagine their surprise when the crew welcomed the arrival of Torsten, the rookie mechanic that would soon prove to be the answer to a bunch of their mechanical problems.
Oh man, finally a mechanic here.
How's it going, Rick?
Good. What's your name?
Torsten.
You pulling him right out?
Yeah.
You strong enough?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
I hope so.
Better take some protein shake.
Eat my Wheaties, eh?
Yeah, that's it.
As soon as the young mechanic made his way to the crew, he showed them that he was the real deal by putting together the complex multi-million-dollar excavator right before the crew's very eyes. Pretty impressive stuff if you ask anyone. Now they can face the challenge of Duncan's Creek's varied topography. With Torsten's help, they may be able to use these handy machines to make the most of their limited time on the mines. The fact that they work on the mines in less than half of the week also becomes quite important, because with their staff of 4 people, at the time they had no mechanic with them, it appeared impossible that they would be able to meet any of their targets for the season. This would be disappointing to Rick, who may have gotten used to extracting 70 ounces of gold from the mines every week. As such, this would be a test of courage, adaptability, and resolve of the team if they are not able to fix the problems that would help them reach their goals or surpass their previous record. These problems with their equipment and machines made the team ponder the absence of one of their other crew members named Carl. In the past, he had played a significant role in the management of their equipment, but now that he may be of ill health, his presence was sorely missed by the crew. His absence also made them understand the importance of equipment and machine maintenance, as well as the presence of a trained mechanic on the team. Perhaps that is why Torsten will be greatly appreciated during his time with the guys on the mines.
Yeah. 1 more year left.
Right on. Well, we'll test your skills for sure. I've got a big excavator sitting in pieces, not making me any money, so you can handle that.
Yep, for sure I can handle that, no problem.
You look like you're ready to go.
Yeah, good to go, so.
After all, after putting the excavator together, he was able to gain their respect because the presence of the machine had already assisted with the improvement of their mining operations. They also realized that they were lucky to have him in the first place because they knew it was difficult to get a mechanic out to their location at this time in the year. Be that as it may, one could say that Rick may actually prefer having a smaller workforce. That said, he cannot ignore the fact that they need a mechanic among their ranks. As much as they may be faced with these niggling headaches, it must be said that the camaraderie within the crew must be strong because they were able to keep the air light and friendly. Perhaps it was because they were able to make the most of their gold harvest so far. Not only did their behavior show that they had some camaraderie within their ranks, it also showed that they team were able to adapt to certain situations with a tenacious yet friendly attitude. This is probably due to their dedication to the cause of mining for gold. With this attitude, they will be determined enough to overcome the other challenges that they will face as they continue with their quest for gold. Well, we hope they are ready, because they have to deal with the fact that they need to find a new place to mine after Brennan ran out of land. As a result, they could actually make the daring adventure to find a new place to find their new gold. Soon, they began to explore a new spot that they considered to be fertile with gold. Once the area was clean and fully open, they decided to name this newly discovered ground the Bacon Strip. As much as they wanted to enjoy this groundbreaking moment, the team was forced to snap back to reality when a rock truck was caught in a sticky situation. It got stuck in a mound of pay dirt. Luckily, there were no casualties in this accident. They also celebrated the fact that they were able to extract 75.9 ounces of gold from their new mining territory that week. As much as they wanted to celebrate this win, they again had to get themselves into a work mindset because of the changes that occurred with another shuffle in Rick's mining crew. This was brought about by the replacement rock truck driver, as the one who was caught up in the previously mentioned accident had to deal with the injuries he sustained when he was trying to maneuver the truck. As much as they were glad that the old truck driver was able to get the rest and relaxation that he needed to get back to shape, the crew must have pined for him when they realized that Riley, the trucker that was supposed to replace the injured one, had no plans of working with them long term. In fact, he never showed up for work after his first day. Fortunately, a solution appeared in the form of the girlfriend of the indisposed truck driver. Eager to step up for her man, she didn't hesitate to get behind the wheels of her man's truck. After the crew was able to teach the devoted girlfriend how to maneuver the truck, They could celebrate their adaptability and fortune thanks to the 47 ounces of gold that they were able to extract from the ground that week. This meant that they had extracted 502 ounces of gold from the ground so far that season, and they can't really complain about that. However, another twist in the tale emerges when Riley, of all people, shows up a few days later with a garish scar on his face. What on earth could have happened to him? Apparently, his absence was given account for thanks to a tale filled with aggressive arguments, a stint in the hospital, and some disturbances with the cops who had taken custody of his mobile phone. As much as Rick must have been thrown off by this crazy story, he was just glad to have Riley back. As much as the team would have been grateful for this moment of relief, it sure didn't last long, as it looked like a case of when it rained, it poured. Right now, it seemed to be pouring heavily on the crew. It was because before they could welcome Riley back to the team properly, they realized that there was a serious issue among their ranks. Turns out that there was a crank between the plant and the rewash. This was problematic because this resulted in a water spillage that could be seriously problematic for the team's mining operations. Looking for answers, the team soon discovered that the leak probably happened because the two 9-inch steel pins that connected the plant and rewash had suddenly vanished into thin air without any explanation. It seemed as though the team had now become jaded to all these irritating problems because they didn't even react to it. All they did was find two new 9-inch pins so that they could fix their problems. Well, this turned out to be useful because they weren't at the end of their problems. As soon as they fixed the problems with the two steel pins, the crew had to turn their attention to other emerging problems. This time, they had to deal with rocks that had torn through the holes in the screen gear. In order to find a way to stop the leak that was going through the holes, they soldered some steel plates onto the holes. Unfortunately, this led to a reduced output of the team, as they were only able to extract about 46 ounces that week. Perhaps this was because of how limited their wash plant had become. At least that is what most of the guys on the team seem to have noticed. It makes you wonder about why nobody had brought up the fact that Rick seemed to have forgotten about the other wash plant that he had taken the time and effort to refurbish during the off-season. This was Monster Red. What's up with that? Why can't they use this other wash plant now? To be honest, we're sure the fans are fascinated by the fact that Rick and his men were dealing with these problems with their drive and determination. It was still strange that Ricky didn't solve their problems by letting the team use Monster Red, but we suppose that the team could take solace in the fact that Rick called for Freddie and Juan to help them fix the holes in the other wash plant. Before long, the pair were able to fix the new plates that Rick had purchased, although they were not perfect for the job. If anything, the job just proved to show that Freddie and Juan were experts in their fields, and as such, there should be no further problems with this wash plant going forward. As much as they could be ecstatic about the fact that their wash plant was back in good shape, they did have to deal with the disappointment of only extracting about 17 ounces of gold from the wash plant. I guess that's what you get when you use most of the week to fix your equipment. As if this wasn't bad enough, the team realized that the bacon strip is dealing with a severe lack of pay dirt. Looking to shake things up, Rick decides to return to the deep cut so that he can continue his gold mining operations. Some may think that this may not be a great idea, especially because they didn't find any gold when they went there the year before. However, they are forced to ignore this fact because their instincts told them that all the gold that could be found in that area may be concentrated underneath the access road. This is a crucial hunch, and with any luck, they may end up discovering that their hunch was right. Well, they will only find out if they're right if they can overcome their next set of problems. This next set of problems began when their team made an incision in the ground that was supposed to start filling up with groundwater. Things went according to plan, until Rick deliberately flooded the region by destroying a berm. While this seemed to create a bad situation, it seemed as though the guys made matters worse by using a pump to drain the water from what was supposed to be the dry section of land that they were hoping to explore for gold. Despite all these complications, the crew may have been right about the fertility of the spot when gold came out, because by the end of the week, they were able to extract almost 126 ounces of gold from that spot. This may have even helped them make up for the reduced yields of the last few weeks. Looks like a good week for the guys regardless of their many problems, especially as this meant that their gold haul for the season so far totaled to a sum of about 687.68 ounces of gold. This outcome shows the sheer level of grit and determination that it takes to succeed in the harsh and unforgiving world of gold mining. If they hadn't persevered through all these emerging problems, they may not have believed that they were capable of making up for their losses. Despite this win, there was still room for things to take an interesting turn. We suppose it all started when Rick put Brennan on night duty at the Rally Valley. Although things did not necessarily start with a bang due to a rock truck that broke down on that first night on dirt, it wasn't so bad because the truck was eventually fixed without any other incidents. At least he could focus on other things the next night, which is when he was supposed to perform a glacial till. Following some consistent work, Rick decided that he could trust Brennan up to the point that Brennan was soon promoted to the position of foreman. While the rest of the crew and the fans back at home may have wondered how impressive Brennan's stint was during the night shift that it was enough to make him a foreman, they could only wait to see if this was a good decision or disastrous one. Either way, we'd have to wait to find out because this was around the time that Rick decided to proceed with his exploration of Rally Valley. Soon he came across a layer of boulders when he got to depths of about 30 feet into the ground. This is when they came across something surprising. When they were down that deep, they realized that they were looking at some pebbles that indicated that there must be some good gold nearby. Eager to test this out, Rick heads out to a nearby stream with a pan. Before long, he emerged from the water with about 30 little gold nuggets. They may just be in the money with this place. With these promising findings in mind, Rick turned his attention to his smaller wash plant. He was going to see the stuff it was made of. This involved the construction of a new road to allow for accessibility, while also constructing a bridge across the valley so that they could pull off the construction of the road. Following a 100-yard test, the teams weighed the true extent of the area as they were able to extract 14.2 ounces of gold. As a result, Rick wasn't really able to relax as he felt restless. His sense of urgency may also have been fueled by the fact that Monster Red still wasn't ready to handle fresh ground, and as a result, Rick didn't know what to do. He knows he cannot get rid of the valuable pay dirt that he already had. However, he only had a limited amount of time to run this pay dirt through his wash plant. Now the team was going to need to know what Rick was going to come up with in order to solve this pressing dilemma. Already, Rick has been dragging his feet when it comes to solutions that may be viable to the team. For starters, he had already begrudgingly chosen to set up Monster Red after arriving at Rally Valley. Now it's taken him forever to realize that if he was going to get through to that pay layer that may be hiding all the gold that he was desperate for, he was going to have to allow the team to use Monster Red. This decision will trigger some more obstacles and some more wins for Rick and his team. Either ways, soon, the fans at home were watching as Rick took control of Monster Red in the next days to come. Although this resulted in several periods of joy, things took yet another interesting turn when a new hopper feeder seemed to turn up out of nowhere. This was especially a shock to the crew and the guys back at home because they understood that Rick had spent all the funds left available to him on the refurbishment of Monster Red as well as a new dozer when it was winter. So where did this new hopper feeder come from? Soon, the gossip around the mines was that Rick may have only been able to afford the new truck because he had access to the funds provided by Fred's seemingly wealthy pockets. Following the procurement of this new truck, the guys were able to take in 43.3 ounces of gold that week. Not too bad when you consider the fact that they weren't really able to focus on their work that past week. However, Rick and the team were soon faced with new issues when they took notice of the rocks that were sliding out of the conveyor. Faced with no other choice, Rick reached out to the maker of the hopper feeder so that they could help him fix the problem that he was facing with it. Before long, a finger trap was placed so that the boulders won't fall back onto the line. Following this solution, Rick and the team turned their focus to the cleanup stage. To their good fortune, this is where Rick ended up making a remarkable discovery: gold that weighed up to about 101.8 ounces. Now that is a lucky break, right? However, despite such a win, it looked like all these challenges seemed to be getting to Rick. As a result, he decided to call for help. To the fans' horror, they found that Rick had decided to call for his father, rather than the people who were competent enough to help him handle his problems. Soon, the fans watched as Rick's dad began helping him with work on the mines. However, nobody could blame him when the 700 excavator also suffered a breakdown. Unfortunately, all efforts to fix the problem seemed to make it worse. Nonetheless, this didn't stop the team from making an impressive discovery of 122.31 ounces of gold. This will not be the end of the problems the team will face as Rick continued with his work at the Raleigh Valley. It would prove to be problematic again because it was when he was alerted that the owner of the claim was on the property. The meeting with the owner of the claim took an interesting turn when she told him that she was hoping that she could sell the claim to him. All he had to do was give her 150 ounces of gold as a down payment for the property. Eager to meet the criteria to acquire the property, the plan was to run both his wash plants, that is Monster Red and Rocky, at the same time. However, there would be a hitch in the plan when a truck accidentally dumped a pile which caused an accident, but it didn't stop them from getting 95 ounces. Hopefully, they will be able to get the gold they need to get that claim. From losing their chief mechanic, who could help them solve the crew's problems with their machines, to having to make all the gold discoveries that they can before the weather hinders their efforts, here's how Rick Ness just lost $1 million because of a broken gold digging machine.